I'm just going to click live. There's no description. I'm just going to hit it and move my finger away so that it doesn't accidentally end.
I know these computers are so sensitive. They do everything, but okay, here it says live. There's no
description. Okay. So, hello everyone. We're so happy to have you back today here on our discussion. We're talking about love and diabetes. So, today we have the Thorpes. I am so excited to talk to them and for them to share their story with us. Um, Say hello, Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe.
Hello, hello, hello.
So, first, I want you to tell the audience about your love story, how you met.
Oh, that would be me. I have a feeling I'll be doing most of the talking. We met one night at Denny's. We both had been at a nightclub. We were at the same nightclub and didn't know. And so, after you go to the club and you go get something to eat, and I was with my friend, a good friend of mine, and he was with his friend. And he kind of shouted at me in the parking lot. And he's like, when you get to know him, he's like not a really like outgoing kind of guy if you don't really know him. So that kind of everything lined up that night because he was like, "Who are you? You look like a supermodel. Who are you?" And that's not characteristic of him at all. So that was just a nice time for him to come out of character and line it all up.
That is awesome. So, when you two were out hanging out, like you were just young and fancy free. You're still young, but you were, younger, fancy free. When did you realize that things were going to get serious?
I'm gonna tell you my side. My side, I knew things was serious because Brianna has a type of personality. She's super sweet, super nice, and she was like no girl I ever met in my life before. Like all the girls I ever dated, she was just different. She had things going right in her life. She knew what she wanted out of life, and I could see myself spend the rest of my life with her.
Wow, that is beautiful. And how did you know he was the one, Bree?
It all happened like pretty quickly. I had been in a longer relationship before then, so I wasn't really looking to be in a relationship. And I had, at the time, my daughter was 4, around 4, almost 5. But yeah, it was just the same thing. Like it was, he had some goals that I had, and they matched up, and we just were on the same page. So it went quickly because we were both wanting the same things at the same time.
Yeah, I know. I follow a lot of different people on the internet, and there's a comedian, Kev on Stage, and his wife, she spoke about their relationship, and she said she wasn't sure he was the one initially, but there were no red flags.
Right.
And yeah, I thought that was a beautiful way to describe it because you never really are like, oh, I just know, because you don't know what is to come in the future. But she said there were no red flags. There was nothing showing me that he wasn't amazing. And so I think that's, kind of goes along with what you're saying. It was just like, hey, we have the same goals, and this feels good.
I think part of the attraction for me was that we are really, really different. We're very different. But it works in our case. And he's from Georgia. I'm from California. So
I was gonna ask Mr. Thorpe. I heard a little twang in that comment there. I was like, "Oh, where's Mr. Thorpe from?"
Macon, Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah, and I'm a California girl, born and raised, never left. So, yeah, that was definitely a blending of two, almost two different cultures.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different way to communicate when you're from, different parts of the United States. I'm a Midwesterner, and we say all different types of things, and I live in Florida, and it's kind of like a rural area or a southern type of feel. And they laugh because I like to have spaghetti with my fried fish. So it's just different things that you have to get accustomed to living in
Yeah,
different areas.
the cooking for sure. It was funny because I just posted recently. I made some catfish.
Oh,
I tried to fry him some catfish.
there you go.
Yeah, when we first started dating, because the extent of my recipe repertoire up to that point was tacos and spaghetti, because that was just my go-to. It was only me and my daughter, so I didn't have to really, I had to impress anybody. She ate whatever I gave her. So I tried to make him some catfish. I fried it, and he ate it, and he never told me until years later that it was gross.
Oh no!
I didn't say it like that.
That was the short of it.
Hey, that's love when he's like, you know what? We got to work on the catfish, but I can look past that.
I look way past
some
that.
people would have been like, you know what? I can't do this. She can't even do the catfish, and it's crazy, but that's sweet. That's sweet. So, what are some adjustments that you had to make, Mr. Thorpe? Some things you had to learn about being a Californian? I can say something stereotypical, like you had to learn how to surf. A lot of people think that Californians surf a lot, but that's not true.
No, they don't do that at all.
Not the ones you know.
No. Coming to California was different. I was in the Marine Corps. That's the reason why I'm out here.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really that much different. Like the race wise, yes, I see way more cultures, way more ethnicities. It's very, very different. So that's the only thing I really, really had to adjust to. Other than that, everything kind of like the same.
Wow, that's beautiful. So, moving along, you guys met and you dated, and so within about 2 years, you got married, and I will share with the audience that beautiful wedding photo. Um, I just love it because it's so beautiful, and you two look so happy, and it's just it's nothing fake or phony about this photo. It's very just genuine and gorgeous. So, how did that feel to you guys? Getting married, finally finding your forever love. How did that feel?
It's kind of surreal because when that, for me at least, always wanted to be married. I wanted to have a family, and I didn't do it the traditional way. I had my daughter when I met him. And it just kind of feels like, even though marriage is not always roses, but it is nice to always have a partner in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because when I first got married with him, like before then, it was just me and my daughter, and of course my mom and her other grandma are tremendous helps. But it's like, if something needed to be done, I had to figure it out. There were times where I would leave work and go pick her up from daycare, and then go back to work, and then leave there and go get her and take her home. And I remember one day I said, "Oh my God, I gotta do this and do this," and he's like, "Well, why can't I do that?" And it was just kind of weird, like, oh, I do have somebody here now. Like, I don't have to do this stuff or bug, my parents or, her grandma to do stuff. So it's surreal that I'm here at a point where I have pretty much everything that I wanted to have. And like I said, it's not, nobody's perfect. It's not always perfect, but it's my perfect. It's pretty close.
Oh, I love that. It's not perfect, but it's my perfect. I love that. That's a great nugget to remember. If you can just slide over a little bit this way, Mrs. Thorpe. There you go. Thank you. So, with that being said, you said that you had your daughter. Were you nervous about just kind of having to blend your family?
Yeah, for sure. Because she was, at the time she was 4.
Mm-hmm.
She's always been super smart. And it was funny, the first time that she met him, I said, "This is my friend, Carlos or whatever." And then, like, a couple months later, when it was clear that we were dating, she goes, "You told me that was your friend." She's always been super like, so she knows what's going on at all times. So that part, and then, just the different parenting styles. He was in the Marines, so he is a very strict parent. And, me being a young mother, wasn't that strict. So, just having to blend that stuff is a constant current battle.
But I think it's beautiful, I think when two people come together and they love each other, anything is possible, and um when it's right for you, it's right for your family and it just works. So I think that's, a testament to tell people, like, look, love surpasses all, any fears that you may have or any drawbacks, and he's actually, like you said, it's been a relief to be able to be a team and for you to be able to say, oh, I don't have to do all this by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice. And it actually benefits us that we have such different styles, because, she can't go too far either way, because one of us is there to kind of pull it back to the middle.
Yes, I always thought as a child, as I got older, I was grateful for my mother because she was super strict. And then I was grateful for my dad because he was super relaxed. If I would have had one without the other, it
Yeah.
would have been, too much of one or the other. So they really did balance each other out. I'm glad that they, were the team that I had. So in your dating, in your courtship, when did you decide to tell Carlos that you were a diabetic?
Well, it's never really something that you can hide.
Mm.
So I can't remember an exact moment of me saying, "Look, this is what what I'm going through," or whatever. But I know generally maybe up until a few years ago, even after we were married, it's something that, and it sounds odd, but it's something that I was a little bit embarrassed of.
Mm.
So it's not something that I flat out said, "Hey, here's what it is, here's what it means, this is how I deal with it, this is how you can help me," because I didn't really fully embrace it as a part of me, because it was just an inconvenience to me. So it was more so like, if I had to take my insulin, he's like, "Well, what's that?" And I'm like, "What's my insulin?" I'm not going to go into detail about it. It's like something I just tried to keep on the peripheral and brush off all the time.
I think that's very introspective what you said. You said I didn't accept it as a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were having to even get to a place to a realization of where you were with your walk-in diabetes.
Right.
And you're right. Until someone can accept and acknowledge what something is, they can't really share it with anyone else. That's
Yeah.
very deep. Very deep.
Yeah, so it's just, gradually, of course, over the years, he got to know more about it. He went to every single appointment with me,
Oh.
probably we've been together. He's been to every appointment. And I think that's how he learned more about it. I don't know if that's true, but he would ask a lot of questions, and he would, take away, whatever goal we had set for that appointment. He would do whatever he could with the knowledge that he had to kind of keep me on track with that goal. And it's like you had asked what was the turning point. We went on a trip to like Orange County or something, and we got there and I started freaking out because I didn't bring my insulin, and at the time I was using the disposable insulin pens, and I was just like, okay, in my mind I'm thinking I can do one of two things. I can just ignore it and probably be real sick all weekend, just try to eat as little as I can with the sugar and the carbs and try to like control it that way. or I can tell him because it really is really important. I really shouldn't go all weekend without my insulin. And so I was kind of nervous about it because I'm like, man, we're going to have to drive all the way back, or we're going to have to try to find a hospital and get some insulin. And I told him, I forgot my insulin pen. And he turned around and went into his toiletry bag and he had one in there.
Oh, I love that.
You don't even remember.
Oh.
I was just like,
Oh.
I wanted to cry. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, just for him to think when he was packing his essentials into his little bag that he knew that was that important that he needed to put a spare in there. So
I just can't.
You
That is so amazing. Like, just, you know, you hear so many stories, so many negative stories about relationships and about what men won't do and what men can't do and whatnot. And I just think that's beautiful that you were so thoughtful to say, let me not just take care of me, let me take care of her. And I bet Miss Thorpe, like, you were just kind of like, oh.
I was, yeah. I always tell people, my coworkers will have their husbands bring their flowers to work. My thing is, if I forget my insulin pen at home and he comes and shows up with my insulin pen, like that's what's important to me. That's romance. Like you would come and bring me my insulin pen at work. I don't have to go all the way back home.
That is so just sweet. It's just sweet. So, Mr. Thorpe, what knowledge did you have about diabetes before you met Bree?
I heard of diabetes before, like people in my family have it, but I ain't know how serious it was until I met Brianna. Like I didn't know that was the types. Like I heard of diabetes, I didn't know the types, and I think people still get confused today. Like when I tell my friends my wife has diabetes, like what your wife overweight like that? I like it's not like that. I like there's diabetes hit people different ways. She's type 1 diabetic. And I try to explain it, but I did a lot of research, especially after I learned out what it was. I tried to do a lot of research about it and find more information. So like when I first met her, I didn't know hardly anything about it.
Wow. And so as time grew on, you guys have been together for 9 years, married for 7, correct?
Yes, we'll be 8 in October.
Good. And so, happy early anniversary. And so, throughout that time, you gained knowledge. And do you continually like just try to stay abreast of new research, or what is your thought process regarding, how you keep yourself informed?
I'm always trying to talk to Brianna about it. I'm trying to always understand and learn more information about it because I know how important it is. Like this is a life and death. Like I pray every night that they find a cure for type 1 diabetics. It's a lot of stuff I go through with this. Like I feel like I know she's going through it, but I feel like I'm going to fight for her every step of the way because she is my wife. We are family, so it's something I'm always think about.
Yeah, I recently got on to join the type 1 diabetic community on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And that has been, there's so much stuff that I'm finding out on there, and I'm 20 years in, and stuff that I just didn't know, and stuff that I didn't know other people went through. Mm-hmm. And that has been just, it's been so good because it has made me feel less alone. Mm-hmm. And made like the things that happen to me don't crumble me like they used to, because I know, it's not that big of a deal. Other people are dealing with this, I could just keep pushing. But, stuff like that before used to just totally just break me and I would just be a mess. But, now that I see other people experience what they call diabetic burnout, where it's just, you're tired. You're tired of constantly counting carbs, constantly injecting, constantly being aware. And now I know there's a term, even having being able to label something like that to me is helpful, because I'm like, I'm experiencing burnout. That's what this is. Like, it's okay. I'm burnt out, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it helps me kind of just, restart.
And I want to speak to the viewers out there, you guys, I'm so glad that you're watching. I want to ask you to take the time to hit the share button while we're talking so that more people can find out the information that we're sharing. Mrs. Thorpe just said she felt so much better when she realized that she wasn't alone. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this series, is so that people know that they're not alone, and to let them know that they're not the only ones going through things. And like you said, I learned about diabetes burnout on our first week, and what it does, it lets people know that it's okay to get tired sometimes. You shouldn't feel guilty for saying, you know what, this is a bit much, and coming to grips with the weight of it all. Sometimes we're expected to just carry a lot. Well, be strong, and just forge on. And sometimes it's just a lot. Life in general can be tough. And then when you have something that you constantly have to take care of, it gets heavy.
I wanted to, because we talked a little bit about how he was saying he didn't know there were types. There's so many people who don't know that, who know that there are types, but have no idea what the difference is between the two. And, just from my perspective, an analogy that I always share with people to kind of explain it is that type 2 diabetes is like you have a key and you're trying to unlock this door, but there's things that are obstructing the lock, whether it's a sedentary lifestyle or weight or your diet, whatever it is. It's just something that's obstructing, your key from unlocking that door. Type 1 diabetes is like not having a key. So there's not, contrary to some people will say, oh, you can try this, you can try that. I've not seen it yet, if you can, but type 1 is just like, you don't have the tools, that your pancreas is not producing the insulin at all. And so it has to be regulated entirely externally. So by injecting insulin, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, just if people would stop and just realize that there is a difference between the two, and not that it makes either one better than the other, because there are also people will say, do you have the good kind or the bad kind? There's no good kind, bad kind. But it's just, they're almost two different illnesses in the way that you have to manage them and the way that they, control your life. And if you are type 2, and you're struggling with whatever those things are that are obstructing, you from being able to make the insulin or whatever it is you need to do, there's things that you can do. There's work that you can do to get, better towards that. For type 1, as of right now, there's a lot of research going on, but there is nothing that you can do today to cure that.
Wow. So when you think about diabetes, what comes to mind when you hear that word diabetes?
A lot of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, frustration. But lately, because you asked this question yesterday when you did your other couple, and when you asked them diabetes is, for some reason, the word empowering came to mind.
Wow.
Because I feel like people deal with so much, and there are, far more complicated diseases out there that people are dealing with. And so I feel like to the point now that I can even manage it, and I have the tools to manage it, and I can afford to manage it, because there are people who can't afford their insulin right now. It's empowering, able to have some kind of control over something that I always thought would control me, and it doesn't.
Yeah. So what do you feel I know you said that there's some misconceptions, like people think that they don't know that there's more than one type of diabetes. People think that someone must be overweight. what are some of the things that people say that can be kind of hurtful or upsetting?
You know, like you're so thin, like, you know, how'd you get diabetes? And, you know, you're too skinny for that. Or did you eat too much sugar? Or I really, I mean, it's not that it really annoys me. It doesn't really bother me that much. But when I'm eating something and people are like, you're not supposed to eat that, you don't know, because there's just so many different layers to that. You know, it's not just don't eat sugar, don't eat, you know, it's just a lot more to it than that.
So what about the ups and downs of diabetes? You know, have you had times where your sugar really drops low or really goes high, or where things are going great, or maybe you get tired of the dieting? Like, what? Tell me about some of your traumatic experiences.
For me, like at nighttime, like some nights, Dexcom has saved our lives a lot. But at nighttime, sugar's really low. And like at first, the first time it happened, it scared the living out of me. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because she started shaking. I'm like, Brianna, are you okay? And she can't talk because her sugars are so low. So she like she can barely say anything. So, but I do pick up something, like I have to run downstairs in the middle of my sleep, run downstairs, get her some orange juice, something to bring her sugars back up. And it's very scary. Her highs get where she can't barely move again. And we have to do whatever we got to do, like give her some insulin for it to go down. And it's very, very scary. But it happens. It don't happen a lot anymore because of Dexcom. But before that, it used to be really, really scary.
Dexcom is a meter that I have now that is inserted into my body. It's in my stomach right now, and it's called a CGM, so it continuously monitors my glucose, and it goes straight to my phone, and you can, you know, link it to someone else's phone, so it's on his phone too, so he can look at his phone wherever he is and see that my blood sugar, you know, might be high or low. And it actually has an alert. It's a super annoying sound. But if your blood sugar starts to go below, you know, what they would call the low threshold, or if it goes higher than a high threshold, then it sounds. And so it sounds for both of us. So he's a hard sleeper, but if that thing goes off, he's up before I am. Like, he's waking me up and he's like, get up, your blood sugar's low, or your blood sugar's crashing. Wow. And so that's it used to be that I didn't have that meter. So
and I would never know if it's crashing or not.
It would just be, I would wake up just with that feeling of being low, and I would just have to, like, you know, grab him and shake him and say, I need juice or whatever it is. But now it tells you when you're on your way down or on your way up, you know, before the event happens. So
and that's the Dexcom?
Dexcom, yes.
Dexcom.
I'm sorry. So I have learned about it recently. I think that there's a gentleman who is either a spokesperson for it or he helps design it, who has diabetes as well. I was kind of doing some research on it. So I had just heard about it the other day. So you use it, and it's made life a little easier for you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow. And it's an app?
Yeah, it's an app that's connected to my phone, and I have to change it every 10 days. It can be put anywhere on your body. There's a lot of different meters out there like that, but the one I had used previously, you could only use it in the back of your arm. And it was giving me like a bad skin reaction, the adhesive. So then I tried this one, and it can go anywhere, and it's amazing.
So it sticks to your body somewhere, and it can test your blood sugar, but it's not providing insulin or anything.
No. So that would be something separate. A pump, right. Would be the pump. I don't have a pump. I have an insulin pen that's Bluetooth to my phone, which is also helpful because my old pens that I was using, they weren't connected to anything. So I would like take my insulin before dinner, and then I'd be like, dang, did I take my
Did I
insulin?
take the insulin? Yes.
Yeah. So now when I take it, it Bluetooths the dose to my phone. So it has a record of what my blood sugar was, and then I enter how many carbs I'm having, and then it tells me what dose to take, and then I just adjust from there. But I mean, all these little gadgets, and I told Carlos I feel like a robot, but it helps.
You know, I'm glad you're sharing this because I didn't know that there were so many things that people could use to make things a lot easier. Now, let's talk about cost. So you have, you know, these cool things that help you out a little bit. Are they expensive?
So they are expensive, but I have amazing health care for my job. So I am coming out of pocket nothing for my Dexcom meter. And my insulin, I pay $5 every maybe 3 months supply that I get.
Oh, that's good.
And so to give it perspective, when I first started working at my job, you know, in the, what do you call it before you get your benefits?
90-day window, probationary period. That's what you're talking about.
I had no benefits. And at the time, the law was when you turn 21, you're off of your parents' benefits. So it coincided exactly when I started my job. So for 3 months, I had no benefits. And so my insulin for a 1 month supply, I believe I paid like almost $600 just for the month. And that was 13 years ago. It might have, you know, come down from there. But I mean, that's just to give it perspective how expensive it could be. And that's why there's so many people in this world who cannot afford their insulin. You have people that are rationing out their insulin, which is extremely dangerous. You know, or people who will skip it for a day because they know, you know, they only have so much and they can't afford the next vial. So I am super grateful to be in the position that I'm in, that I don't really have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm. So the like you said, things are covered with your insurance. Even like the Dexcom. Dexcom.
Carlos messed you up. But yeah, it's that's completely covered. I don't owe anything. It was funny because in order to get it, for my healthcare, I had to already be at a certain level with my diabetes. Like I had to be controlled to a certain extent. So I had to work really hard to get there.
It was not easy.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like anything that I have wanted to do in my life, whether it's we were getting ready, you know, to undergo fertility stuff, or you know, anything, is my blood sugar is always a preceptor for all of it. So it's like, okay, you want to do this? Well, let's get your blood sugar to this number. You want to do this? And it's hard. It's hard work, especially when I was doing it before I had these devices. So to get the Dexcom, I had to get my blood sugar to a certain level. And once I got it, then the doctor went ahead and ordered it for me, and it wound up being covered. But we were holding our breath before because the first milestone was me getting that number to get my blood sugars controlled enough. And the next was going to be the cost, because what I had been using before was about $70 to $80 every 6 weeks. And I knew this was even better. So I was like, okay, like we got it. Let's see what when we got the invoice, let's see how much it's going to cost. And when she said nothing, I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Right? That's always a sigh of relief. So you mentioned fertility. So is there anything you wanted to share with the audience about fertility and diabetes?
Yeah, so the issues, we have fertility issues, and they're unrelated to diabetes. But like, for example, with my first daughter, she's almost 14. That was another thing. When I got pregnant with her, I was very uncontrolled. Just to give it reference, a common A1C, which is your lab work for a diabetic, or the goal A1C would be like under 6 or under 7. At the time, mine was a 14. So it was, it was saying that my blood sugars on average were 5 to 600 at any given time. So when I got pregnant.
Were you ever overweight? Had you ever been overweight or anything like that? Right.
No. And
do you have family history at all?
So So my grandmother, which is my mom's mom, so I have a lot of type 2 diabetics in my family, but my mom's mom was diagnosed as a type 2, but as time went on, and even after she passed away, they think that maybe they misdiagnosed her, just because of, how out of control her blood sugars would get. And some of the characteristics were more so of a type 1. But even me being diagnosed 20 years ago, as recently as 20 years ago, I was misdiagnosed as a type 2. And they gave me pills. And I would end up right back in the emergency room.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so just with pregnancy, you just have to make sure that your blood sugars, they had me get it down to a 6. Just, I had to be super, super diligent about the maintenance and just being aware, because, it wasn't just me, it was the health of my daughter too, that I was, responsible for. And you run a risk of having a super big baby when you're a diabetic. That's with any type, gestational, type 1, type 2. And, with your baby being overweight, your baby runs the risk of like stroke or, just a bunch of complications on their way out. So if you're planning to get pregnant when you're a type 1, you really have to be super hardcore in getting your levels where they're supposed to be before you get pregnant.
So now you are, present day living with diabetes. What do you want to see happen in the future for diabetics, for awareness? What would you like to see moving forward?
Well, I feel like the most reasonable step would be for the cost of insulin to come down. And that's a really big movement in the, diabetic community. It's essential to life, and the way that they price it is it's ridiculous. And during the coronavirus, the price of insulin has come down for a lot of companies, as a courtesy to help people that are struggling right now. And my thing is, if you could do that during this time, you could have done it before, and it can continue. But that's just, in the present, what could be done. But in the far future, I'd like to see a cure. I'd like to see, there's a lot of research being done with beta cells being replaced in the pancreas so that they could mimic what a real pancreas would do and help to stimulate to produce insulin. I personally won't be trying any of those things because I feel like in my lifetime, they won't have perfected anything like that enough for me to want to undergo surgery to do it. But I think all of the advancements that they've had, at this point, with what I have, I'm comfortable managing it. And that's all you really can ask for. It's just, I live a go, go, go lifestyle. Loves that. But my daughter plays softball. I love to throw a party. I love to organize an event. I like to go. And so it's hard when you have to stop and test your blood sugar and see what it is, or you get interrupted by a low blood sugar, or, you're feeling awful because your blood sugar is so high. So it's just maintenance for me is key, because if I can keep it, balanced out, I can continue doing what I want to do.
So how did you find out about such cool tools like Dexcom and the Bluetooth pen? How did your doctor tell you about that, or did you have to research that on your own?
I work in a pharmacy, so I see a lot of this stuff come through, and I'm nosy. If the person next to me is helping a diabetic, I'm just kind of waiting for my time, and I lean over and I go, "What's that? Where is that from?" And I'm a diabetic too. Come on over here. So we go down to the window and we start talking. But that's really how I get information. It's just I don't know, in every healthcare setting, but I don't think it's something that's really advertised in a lot of doctors' offices because they're expensive. This is expensive stuff they're dealing with. So there's commercials on TV sometimes. But you really have to be an advocate for your own health and go out there and get the information yourself and find out what's going to work for you.
But the thing about it is sometimes you don't know what to advocate for. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't know that there's cool things out there to assist you, how do you know to ask for it? I mean, you can come to your...
That's why I say Instagram is a wealth knowledge when it comes to that. I mean, it's not just for selfies and being cute. if you click that type 1 diabetic hashtag, there's so much stuff on there that I have I mean, I was overwhelmed when I first saw I had to click out the app because I was like, this is just too much, but that's where I got a lot of the, you see people that are talking about what things they've tried, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. Even now, if something goes wrong with I had a problem recently where I was injecting it, putting my sensor in to apply it, and it wouldn't read, or something was going on. And I went through 2 patches and it still wasn't working. And so I started searching the hashtag for my sensor, and I was able to find a page where I figured out what I was doing wrong.
Wow.
So, and that's, to me, that's more valuable than calling the company and asking them, because a lot of them, they're not all type 1 diabetics. They don't really know they're selling a product. But if you can go to somebody who's actually using it, it's super helpful.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take some time to get some questions from the viewers. And while we get our questions, I am going to present a slideshow to just provide everybody with a little information about the show. And you guys, our viewers, just go ahead and ask some questions.
I want to see the slideshow.
Let me see the slideshow.
And you guys are still on air.
Oh. Well, while we're still on, Darshelle, we want to say thank you to you. This is really awesome.
Oh, you are very welcome.
Appreciate this platform. It's important to talk about, and a lot of people have questions. You have a platform where you're kind of opening up awareness about it. It's super cool.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, and we're back. So, let's see. Everyone is saying hello. You have some wonderful comments, and people said that this has been very informative. So, once again, I just want to thank you for stopping by. Thank you to our viewers for sharing and for just listening to us as we pour our hearts out about diabetes. Tomorrow, we're going to have our last couple for the week. And the couple is Mr. and Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones is an optometrist, and she's going to tell us how sometimes she is the first person to recognize that someone may be diabetic. And her husband, Mr. Jones, is an office manager. They both are an entrepreneur team for Violet Eyewear and Divine Family Eye Care. So you don't want to miss that. And also, Mr. Jones is a type 1 diabetic. So we're going to talk about their lives from living it and from a medical professional standpoint, just share, uh, it's my heart that people learn and grow from these talks. Um, Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to get more information. Let me know in my inbox what other topics you want to hear about. What else you want to hear about diabetes? What other illnesses you want me to cover? I am a servant of the community and I want to just help people with information. Once again, Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe, you've been amazing. I learned so much about your love story. Um, you know, that just was lifetime ready with the insulin and the surprise insulin on the trip. I was just like, oh, ready to cry. That was just a beautiful, beautiful story. And that's what I hope is just to encourage people out there who are looking for love, for those who are in love to just, hang in there. They shared, it's not always easy. There's times where things get a little rough, but the love that they have for each other supersedes the rough times. So before we go, Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe, um, let's sign off with something positive for the viewers. If um, either one of you would like to, both of you would like to just share a couple of encouraging words before we sign off.
First, I just want to say thank you, Darshell. This is a super, even if one or two people learn something today, then you've done a great service to the community. We really appreciate that. And we just want to tell everybody that we love you guys. Thank you for caring enough to even watch and learn. We've had some awesome, awesome people in our life, so we appreciate all of you.
Great.
You want to say something?
Thank you, Darcel, for doing this with my wife. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you for agreeing. So, until next time.
Thank you to Carlos, because this is not his thing. And I really appreciate him doing this with me. The first thing he said was, do I have to talk? And he talked and you did well. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
You both did amazing. You did an amazing job. And I mean, hey, I hope that this is just a start for you guys to share your story, because people need to see this positive image of such a beautiful couple, just talking about life and just doing amazing things. So I hope that there's more opportunities for you. So with that being said, I'll see you all back here tomorrow, Thursday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, or 5 o'clock Pacific. All right? All right, everybody. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.